PG because it's an EFF or it's an ANC. What does the CV say?
Yeah.
Is this person qualified?
Competent.
Is this person patriotic enough to lead this country? And before I look anywhere, I will look amongst the EFF people. Why? When ESCOM doesn't perform well, you don't say ESCOM. You are going to say, you see, this EFF government.
Yeah.
When it suits you, no, don't send your people. And then when they fail, the people that are not my people, you come and blame me. So cadreship development means the comrades that are qualified, who have been to school, who are highly trained in this field. And the ANC, what is painful about it is that it took a lot of comrades to school and trained them. Now they isolate them for political reason and factionalism.
Final question from me before I give my colleagues. EFF, ANC, a coalition in Johannesburg, are you happy with that mode? People are a bit nervous that it looks like you guys, between you and the ANC, you are toying with Johannesburg, giving mayors who don't know what they are doing. We are now on mayor number God knows what, right? And then you got one now who's hiding, never wants to talk to anybody. Under your watch, summary there, what is the rationale? Why couldn't we just get either from you or ANC to take the mayorship? Because it looks like it's now a joke.
Well, I think you are unfair and you are judging people harshly. He's a councillor. You don't start by the mayor. He's a councillor. And for you to be a mayor, you must first qualify to be a councillor.
Yeah.
And then once you are a councillor, you qualify to be a mayor.
Yeah.
So instead of you guys talking mayorship, why are you not removing him as a councillor? It is the people's will that have put him in the council. It's not the EFF, it's not our member. We voted for him in the council because...
But is he the best foot forward? You've been talking about qualifications and competence and what?
The best foot forward. The problem is that his leadership style is not yours. We lead differently. When our rasa when our rasa. So he's got his own way of doing things. He goes to places. He
quietly.
Firstly, he gave.
Leading quiet.
No, he gave the acceptance speech.
Yeah.
And for your information, he's smarter than the one that left
before.
Yeah. Very articulate.
Yeah.
And very knowledgeable about local government. And then he will visit projects of the municipality, not with these road shows and too many convoys. No, it's a different kind of a cadre. But he's there. He's available inspecting the project.
So you have confidence in him?
That's why we elected him. So there are a lot of people that are your favorites who don't speak. And we never get to hear accountability from them, and you guys don't take them on. One of them is Jamnandas. I mean, Jamnandas can disappear for 4 months, and then the state-owned enterprises are collapsing under him. But no one has ever said Jamnandas is a bad leader. No one knows where the guy is. No one. But there's never been a story. But this one of the same color with me.
Yeah.
Because of our color, we are judged differently from other people. The guy is there.
Yeah.
And the day he was supposed to answer questions, he even collapsed.
He got sick.
He got sick and he was rushed to the hospital. Not because he didn't want to do his job.
Yeah.
But Jamnandas didn't collapse anyway. And we don't see.
Ladies and gentlemen, the CIC of the EFF. Okay, I'm going to give you my colleagues. Who wants to start? Let's start in this table here. Remember the rules, guys. So I'm giving you time. You ask your follow-up questions. The CIC will respond immediately before we move on to the next person, so that it can become more of a dialogue rather than a long-standing thing where he'll answer at the end.
Okay.
Just introduce yourself as you start.
Okay, thank you very much. It's Zondi Limbeji from the SAPC. Mr. Malema, there has been a number of events as well in the country currently. especially during this month of July. I think 2 years ago, around this time, it was bad. So, and the reason was obviously, I think it was related to the incarceration of the ex-president. So we saw a judgment, was it a ruling? I don't know how which basically said, I think when all is said and done, he needs to go back to prison. So given what has been happening in some of those sporadic incidents around the trucks, so I'd want to hear your view around those matters. And then, of course, on the Mkhwebane thing, you issued a very strong statement, also following what the Constitutional Court said. Just perhaps that response on that one before I follow up.
Look, the Mkhwebane judgment is bad. It doesn't matter how you look at it. President Zuma was told he cannot appoint the head of the Commission of Inquiry because he's implicated. That's how Zondo was appointed. That part of the things that are going to be investigated by this commission that we're seeking to establish are going to implicate President Zuma, and as a result, he can appoint a judge of who's going to preside the commission. Today, Ramaphosa can remove a person who is investigating him and says, I didn't know who was going to be the acting, even when it's not true. He knew who was going to be the acting PP. There is a deputy PP at that level. Galeka was a member. I'm not saying he's a member. I don't know what is the status now. Galeka led the ANC Youth League with us. And when we say with us, we're talking yesterday. And one of the questions these comrades, when they interview her now for this, they must ask her if she's still a member of the ANC. And if she says no, they must ask her, when last did you terminate your ANC membership? She was not just a member. She was a leader of the ANC Youth League in Gauteng. Then left to even advise Malusi Gigaba. Then you become an act and you exonerate a president, and then from there apply for that position. The reason why they say that position is 7 years is because you must not be influenced by the current leadership, because they know you don't seek anything after that. She's seeking something. She was not supposed to be the one presiding over that matter if she knew that she's interested in becoming a public protector. Now she exonerated the president because why? She knows the president has got majority in parliament and is going to have an influence on who gets appointed as a public protector. It therefore defeats the whole purpose of having a public protector who is 7 years old, after taking these decisions, will not apply for a job. Yeah. We have a crisis here. This needs to be looked into. A person has taken decisions now. He's now going back to apply. Does it mean it defeated the purpose of saying 7 years to avoid you taking decisions in favor so that you can be reappointed? So the court that took a correct decision is the Western Cape Court. The president was emotional. The president stood to benefit from that. We respect the decision of the Constitutional Court, but we disagree with it. We disagree with it respectfully. And the decisions of the court are not alpha and omega. No. Why would we study law if we can't read these things and disagree with them and rewrite our own academic papers to demonstrate how wrong this judgment was? It doesn't mean we can't implement it. We simply do not agree with it. And two things happened. Galeka, who wants to be appointed, exonerates the president so that he can be appointed. Maya, who's been nominated by the president, something unprecedented. When he appointed the Chief Justice, he says, I appoint the Chief Justice and I will nominate Maya when this Chief Justice finishes his term. Yeah. Your career was party, mama. Straight. You're going to be appointed where you are age. Where now the judgment, this is a wrong person. A person who said you are going to be appointed even before nominations are called upon. He was bribing him even before. He finished him even before. That if I behave, I'm going to succeed.
After all, I've already been nominated.
I've been nominated by the president.
I think
the other one, you know, when President Zuma was refusing to go to the commission and those things of the Constitutional Court, I went to visit him. And I pleaded with him. And I said, President Zuma, you don't lose anything. Go there and speak. And you're too senior. And I like it when you speak of the CAF. Go and put your perspective. It doesn't matter what the decision is. The reason why I came to is because we are going to inherit this country. We want to inherit and lead a country that has got functional judiciary, that has got institutions of the state that are respected by all of us. I don't want you to agree with me or disagree with me, but I came to express this view. And I went, when the decision was made, I went to see President Ramaphosa, that whatever happens, you may have to give President Zuma a presidential pardon. Flew a lot of people into this city, in and out, trying to mediate this underground to avoid what happened there in July. Because I knew what was going to happen. I was involved to try and avoid what happened. And these are people that I'm nobody to them. Both of them played a role in my distraction, expelled me, took my things, and did all manner of things. But for the country's sake, I had to swallow my pride and try and mediate a peace so that we can continue as a country. Yesterday, President Ramaphosa changed his phone. When I called yesterday, his phone didn't go through. I went looking for his phone number.
He said his number.
His number, phone number. I went looking for his phone number yesterday. And I called him, I said, no, I was not having the right number because I had this decision. And as when the time permits, we will make time and come and see you. Because again, we don't know what's going to be the decision of the Department of Correctional Service and them. But the president's hands are not tied. And that's what we want to remind him of. We reach a point where we must choose peace over all this type of things that we're talking about. To say no one is above the law and all of that. Zuma is served. It's enough. Why do you still want to ban this country after a person is served? He's served. It's enough. And then parole is another form, by the way, of sentencing. When they say you are on parole, doesn't mean you are free. There are certain conditions that come with parole.
Muzwa, follow up, please.
Yes, the quick follow up on the Deputy Chief Justice Maya. You've basically said because of her being nominated, so that's why that kind of a decision. But let's remember that you sat in the JSC, which recommended Maya to be actually the actual Chief Justice. So how do you reconcile that? Before you answer, just a very quick one again. After the ANC Youth League was elected, I think he wrote something very interesting on the Twitter page about who they were and their masters. And then given your friendship, or rather your comradeship with Fikile Mbalula, are you guys still in that friendship zone, or it is slowly collapsing because of politics? Thank you.
Look, we nominated President Maya to be the Chief Justice. If they'd appointed her, perhaps this type of attitude wouldn't be there. She's not appointed. They are keeping her at arm's length. Or into yakho right. When just behave. But into zako zamba kahle. So if she was fully appointed, it's a different ball game altogether. Because she's appointed and she doesn't have to appease anyone. So people are being held at half clutch everywhere. Because they must appease the master. Otherwise, they will not be appointed. I mean, it's not a decision alone. But surely she wrote the judgment. She's the senior judge. She had some influence when they were conferencing on what is the best decision to take. It doesn't take away the fact that she's a good woman, she's a qualified woman. You can't question her qualifications. But we find ourselves in a situation where we're working with crooks that are collapsing our judiciary, and won't be shocked when they say they've infiltrated her and they want to delegitimize her. By the time that position comes, you may find that Maya is discredited and a different person must emerge altogether. So we said we needed someone who's going to serve longer to avoid what we're being subjected to now, where people will have to appease people.
You think Zondo was being, what do you call it? Zondo was being rewarded?
Yes.
For the state
Zondo got 2 votes in the JC. Two.
Yeah.
Yeah. His colleagues interviewed him.
Yeah.
He got 2 votes.
Hey, okay, let's take someone else.
Well, he's not done with
one more. Quick.
No, he's not done with the Mbalula ANC. You think?
No.
Oh my God.
Look, Mbalula uses people. Survival of Mbalula in politics is using people. So he uses you, he dumps you. When they were going to the conference of the ANC, I called our friend Lunga in Cape Town, who was not supporting Mbalula, and I asked him, why would you do that to our friend? This guy, he might be having his own weaknesses, but we grew up together. Why? He said, Mbalula uses people, and I'm giving you much. He will not see you for anything. It didn't reach much. Immediately, when he left that conference, I was the first victim. Mbalula, when he went to the conference, he came from my house to the conference. And then from conference, he came out insulting me. And I'm like, you have an issue with me, you've got access to me. Why can't you raise the issue with me? So, and that's how he has been. He uses people politically, and then he dumps them. So, if he loses his power now, he will come back to me like nothing happened. He will look for me wherever I am and want to continue business as usual. It took Mbalula how many years? 5, 6 years for him to warm up to us. When we formed the EFF, we're not in speaking terms with Mbalula. Only now, recently, when they removed him from those things of ministers, and he started reaching out to us. And then it's not for the first time. A lot of his generation, the people he grew up with in the youth league, were not supporting his candidature. Why? So, you know, you just have to know him for who he is. We live with human beings. But we just have to know, otherwise we'll live alone, and it's not going to be nice. Just don't invest emotions in these types of characters who use people.
Okay, we have to move. Yes, next.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Gert van der Westhuizen from Netwerk 24. I just want to make sure, sir, you think a presidential pardon will prevent any possibility of violence at the moment? And
Yes.
sorry, can I ask you two other things? I'll be quick. Sure. If the DA had invited you to join the Moonshot Pact, would you have considered it? And do you ever see yourself working with them again in future? And then the last thing, there has been all these court cases about hate speech and stuff. There was a judgment this morning. Tell me how you feel about that and what do you think the purpose of those court cases are?
Well, if the DA had invited us, we would have come on board, but will not go to the moon because we must save the earth. So what are we doing in the moon? We're here. So we would have decided on something else. We have been more than willing to work with the DA. We even voted them. I said from the beginning, the coming together of the opposition to give our people an alternative is my first option. Is my first option. I've always challenged the media in South Africa, and I said, ask the DA why they don't want to work with the EFF. But the question is directed at us, as if we said we can't work with the DA. No, ask them why you don't want to work with the EFF. The EFF that gave you Johannesburg, gave you Tshwane, gave you Kuruleni, gave you Nelson Mandela Metro, gave them everything in 2016. And then when we come after 5 years, we say, guys, we now are ready, we want to participate in government. They say, no. Well, now your job is to be a voting cattle. Vote for us. What type of nonsense is that? The IFP, the same thing. We give them 22 municipalities in KZN. We later say to them, guys, we're here, let's see. Mayor this side, speaker this side, this way, that way. The IFP says, no, you're not getting anything. So when the IFP rejects us, and then what do? You want us to keep on voting for them even when they are rejecting us? We can't. But the EFF has demonstrated its commitment to the unity of the opposition parties long time ago. Look, from the beginning, our agenda to remove the ANC has been very clear, and we've given our vote to the opposition parties. In return, they just reject us. What, you see, you can talk about hate speech cases. What hate speech case? I won a case here in Joburg. You never wrote an article congratulating me about that case of AfriForum, which was represented by some incompetent Oppenheimer lawyer. They won. The leave to appeal is now going to the Supreme Court of Appeal. Then there is another case of land occupation, which is an EFF police. It's also going to the Constitutional Court appeal, because they say when we say occupy the unoccupied land, it's unconstitutional, blah, blah, blah. So we're challenging that. Because our occupation of the land policy is to try and put pressure to speed up the process of redistributing land into the hands of our people. So we're not committing any crime. The Freedom Charter itself says you shall settle wherever you choose to do so. So the declaration of settlement anywhere we choose to do so as invalid and unconstitutional will be the declaration of the Freedom Charter as an unconstitutional document which was adopted by our people, and we are told that majority of this constitution derives its existence from the Freedom Charter. I think I answered all of them.
Follow up?
Just a question about why do you think people make all these hate speech cases, and then just a question about the presidential pardon, please.
Presidential pardon is proper. We must try and mitigate a situation where we avoid violence. We have seen 350 to 400 Africans died in July. We don't want a repeat of that. We don't. And if the president can intervene in the best interest of the country, that's good. Because he's not using the presidential pardon to pardon his auditor or his own lawyer or anything. It's not personal. It's for the cause. Zuma served, Zuma was released, he did not release himself. And therefore, we should respect that. The hate speech cases is to try and sidetrack the EFF. There is an organization here in South Africa that thrives through hatred called AfriForum. Its existence is based on hate. They even remove our posters. They go and remove EFF rally posters with guns, carrying guns in baggies. We never remove anything of AfriForum. It's not a genuine cause. It's an act of hatred.
Okay. You're happy? All right. All right. Go ahead.
The name is Rems Mabote. I'm a podcaster. I want us to laugh a bit. You know, things can get too serious, but this is a very serious question. Yeah. Congratulations on the 10 years.
Thank you.
Aren't you worried, though? I mean, could be 15 years. Could end up looking like Mangosuthu Buthelezi or Bantu Holomisa, end up going forever in opposition as the only leader. Aren't you worried about that?
Not at all. My intention is to leave politics at 55. I don't want to die a politician because I've been in politics from 9 years. I know no other life except politics. So when the sooner I leave, the better for me to learn certain things. I'm also in farming, and therefore I think it will give me a different perspective of life. We're leading with very good comrades that must take over the EFF at some point. So I've got an appointment with Union Building, and then from there I'm out of here.
I'm answered. That's what he said. The other guy said the same thing. They had an appointment with Union Building. Never happened. So that's why I'm a bit worried. But I'm answered.
No, but those ones were not going to make it to Union Building, especially the IFP. Its intention from its formation has never had a destination with the Union Building. It had a destination with a tribe. It wanted to be a Zulu party, and it has achieved its mission. It was a cultural group which turned into a political party. They never had a vision of South Africa.
Are you happy with your succession plan in terms of replicating yourself? Linked to that question of
well, the good thing with the student command, and if you look at the leadership of the EFF, Vuyani and Busnawe and them, they are graduates of the student command. So the ability of the student command to produce the second and third layer leadership of the EFF is satisfying. And the majority, if you go through all the presidents of the student command and you get to listen to them, and you listen to the leadership that gets to be produced by the regions and provinces, you sleep peacefully because you can hear that the EFF is spoiled of qualified leadership.
Choice. Yeah.
And the good thing with the EFF is its emphasis on education. That because the biggest problem is the ability to just read with the understanding and be able to articulate that which you have read, so that you master the vision and the destination. The ANC people don't read. When we arrived in Parliament, they used to say we must call each other honorable members. We said, no, why do you say that? But no, it's in the rule books. And then we said, there's no such a thing. They paged from the first page to the last page. That thing was not there. They arrived there and found the apartheid whites who remained in that parliament calling each other honorables. And they thought it's by law, by the rules of parliament, that they must call each other honorable members. That thing of honorable members is not in the rule book. They say don't call each other by name. They don't say call each other honorable because they know others may not be honorable.
All right, let's go. Sophie.
Sophie Mkwena from the SABC. I want to start with, I remember when that ANC appeals committee took a decision that Derek Hanagom was correct to expel you. It was chaired by the current president, President Ramaphosa. As a group, I was traveling to Free State. You called me and you said, can you plead with these people not to expel us? We are ready to go to Cuba. We are ready to go to China for years to go and humble ourselves. And then you went to the late Winnie Mandela's house. I had to go back and do that story. Do you regret making that call, pleading that your membership shouldn't be taken? I remember Makakla was the one leading the call. Lamula, you were all together. You were on speakerphone. 2, in terms of your relationship with leaders in South Africa, not necessarily the EFF leadership, how is your relationship with other leaders, current and previous leaders? Because as a leader of any organization or an influential person, you interact with everybody. What is your relationship? The third question, in relation to Jacob Zuma and you going to Nkandla, what was his demeanor when you approached him and made him aware that this is going to be a huge crisis, and here we are faced with this? And where is President Zuma? Do you know, or do you interact with him? On international issues, Zimbabwe is going to elections. Is there any prospect of this SADC country having a different future that will assist the entire region to be a better region? And finally, on Putin, there's a huge debate around our relationship with other countries. Government is saying we are non-aligned. President Lula, now back in the BRICS, he's pushing for a South-South cooperation rather than BRICS. And it's understandable because these are the people who are pushing for South-South, strengthen the developing South if you want to take on the developed North. What is your view on that? Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you know, the painful thing about Zimbabwe's elections is that they already won. It's really a waste of time. And anyone else who's going there, I mean, Chamisa won elections the last time. And they just stole them like that. And then when the people try to rise, they get beaten. They already won. And then now Tyson wants to come in. They manipulate the processes. They block him. Because Mnangagwa won with 30,000 votes, 35,000 votes. For you to get a threshold, for him to get a threshold, he got 35,000 votes. If Tyson comes in, he's likely to take not less than 100,000 votes, and Mnangagwa doesn't reach a threshold, and Chamisa doesn't reach a threshold, then it's a stalemate. Then there will be a rerun, and if they still don't reach the threshold, then there must be a government of national unity, so that they buy some time while they're still preparing for other elections. So the only intervention that can be made is by Zimbabweans who are all over the world. They are found in London, they are found in Botswana, they are found in South Africa. They need to take a conscious decision to go back home and vote. No one says go back and stay there and don't come back. If they've got what it takes, they will come back. But the country is in a crisis, and you're not going to resolve that crisis by staying out of the country. They have to make an appointment with going back home to go and vote. And the numbers must be so decisive, such that even rigging becomes impossible. Because rigging happens when the contest is too close. But if the margins are too high, it becomes impossible. So the people of Zimbabwe must decide what they want. and go and do the right thing. Otherwise, Mnangagwa is going to lead them, and not in a correct manner. When they try to rise, they are going to be suppressed. President Putin must come to South Africa. Everywhere else where Putin will be passing, there must be immunity. Putin is not coming to South Africa. Putin is coming to BRICS. And there ought to be that difference where South Africa declares a certain territories as BRICS territories. The way we do with embassies and all of that, no one can just walk into any embassy here and say, no, you want to pull out a person from that embassy. No, it's not South Africa. It's an embassy of the USA, it's a Russian embassy and all of that. Where this meeting is going to take place, we ought to declare that a BRICS territorial area. And then say to these people, there is nothing we can do. He's not coming to us, he's coming to attack.
We did with the UN when the World Summit was here.
Yes. So, and we allow BRICS to proceed. Those arguments by President Lula and all of them, they ought to take place in that context where they can engage as leaders in terms of the types of the formula and the structure that they need to take in order to have a functional multinational body that will be seized with all these matters. ICC is inconsistent. And America is not a signatory, and yet wants other people to be signatories and subject them to the law that they do not subject themselves to. We cannot allow that. So if we're going to continue with ICC without it being challenged, it has to be consistent in the application of its laws. They continue to make mistakes. Bushi, now Biden, in their speeches make reference to Afghanistan because it's haunting them. It's haunting them. Iraq is haunting them. Why did they come and kill brother leader here, Gaddafi? For what reason? So there was no need. So, and everywhere else they went in the name of peace, they left destruction. There's no mission they took which has arisen in giving sustainable peace. And therefore, we can't say NATO is a peaceful organization. It's a war organization. It's a war organization. And unfortunately, we voted for the destruction of Libya. And when we raised that matter in the ANC, and we raised it sharply in the ANC and disagreed with Zuma, that we were told we were disrespectful. We were told we are young, we don't know what we are talking about. That thing is haunting us. He comes to the Youth League conference, he reads half of the resolution of the UN. When Floyd completes the resolution, because Zuma said no flight zone, and then he leaves it there. Floyd screams from the back and says, and any other necessary means. Because any other necessary means is the one that allowed these people to enter Libya and distract it. He doesn't want to read that part. And then he says to Floyd, Kuluma now, inside the conference, because we're exposing him that you're not reading the whole thing. And China could not veto the resolution. Russia could not veto the resolution. Why? South Africa voted for it. If South Africa had voted against that resolution, China and Russia would have vetoed that resolution. Gaddafi will still be alive. So, and we spoke these things. No one will ever, people write books about nationalization, about things we spoke about, including Marikana. The documentaries are done, and then we just get expunged out of that history as if we were never there, giving a particular perspective which has been proven over a period of time. Because if you do that, you are legitimizing them. Look, I have no regret of saying I want to remain in the ANC. I've got no regret. I would have corrected the ANC from within. Because I've never wanted to form a political party, and I will never form another political party if this EFF expels me. It's not a child's play. You know, just wake up in the morning and then you say you form it. It's difficult. We're still forming it even now, 10 years down the line. I said to them, take my membership, suspend me for 10 years without occupying. No, leave my membership. Suspend me for 10 years plus without me occupying any position of responsibility. And you can take us to Cuba, to China for political education. Derek Anokom suspended us for 5 years. Me, 5 years. Floyd, 3 years. Magata, 1 year. When we did an appeal, mine changed from 5 years suspension to expulsion. Cyril changed it to expulsion. Anokom didn't expel me. I was expelled by Cyril. And then Floyd, 3 years. Floyd was not expelled. He resigned on his own. And then Magata remained, and then he finished his 1 year. I said to them, leave me with the membership, because I knew I don't need to be a member. I had already made a huge impact. I don't need to be a leader. As long as you will allow me to be in an ANC rally, as long as you will allow me to be in the ANC conference, as a cleaner there, as a volunteer, WUPEX, I will kill you. I will finish you. I don't have to be a delegate. As long as I can be amongst you. And then they knew at that time that this request is very dangerous. Because I don't want nothing. Just membership, it's enough. But no, we don't want those things. Then they expelled me. I accepted. Also, when I left, I was not going to form a party. I left. I went to do farming. I did crops, cabbage, I did tomato, and then I did cattle. The ANC went on January 8 in 2013. That Sunday, I can't remember who did the article for City Press, came to interview me. I don't know if it's Japheth or what. Came to interview me in my farm. I'd now accepted my fate. I left. I'm doing farming. I'm no longer. My interview is about what is your next life. No, you can look at me. I'm in the farm. I'm farming. I'm okay. Politics is not for me. They don't want me. ANC tradition is such that that Sunday of January 8, all front pages are ANC. But that day, front page was me with the cabbages. And that thing irritated Praveen. Why is he still having a farm? Why is he still having a farm? Then they came to take my farm. And then invited me back into politics. That's why when a person says to me, no, they say I'm what? This thing they always say,
flip-flop.
No, they're like a prophet of a church, like cult. Yeah, it's a cult. It's a cult.
Yeah.
A cult that goes home. Because a cult would have moved from the ANC and say, follow me. I've never been a cult. I left. And I didn't live with anyone. I never said to anyone, let's go and form a political party. I left and went to do farming. That's the reality of the situation. Now, you take the farm. That is the second thing I know. By doing that, then you invite me back into politics. That's why I'm back here.
Have you forgiven Cyril? If next year...
I've forgiven everyone.
You can work with him.
He's a crook. I can't work with him.
Oh my God. All right, let's just...
But you didn't answer my question on leadership.
No,
I'll do a follow-up.
No, I relate with all political leaders. President Mbeki, I've got a very good relationship with him. At any time I can take a phone call him, and go and seek guidance on this or that. He does the same. If there are issues that he needs, clarity from the EFF, he makes a call and invite us. The same with President Zuma. I missed President Zuma this Monday when he was leaving to Russia because we had our own war council. President Motlanthe and all political leaders. And I'm one person when I've got an issue with any leader, be it Steenhuisen, be it General Olomesa, Musi or anyone, I take the call and I make a call and I sell my views. They can reject them, but I'm not shy to express them.
All right,
So I've got a relationship. Yeah.
I've got to move. Let's go to this extreme.
A hand has been up, yeah.
All right, I'll come back to you. You're fine. All right. All right. No, I'll come back to you sometime because the SABC dominated is 3 people from the SABC. It's dominated. This is now it's a monopoly. No, come.
Thank you very much. I'll be very quick. My name is Konita Hunter from the News 24. What did President Cyril Ramaphosa say to you yesterday when you asked him for the presidential pardon for former President Zuma? Did you end up speaking to him?
No. We didn't speak about presidential pardon. I got his number, and then I called him. We spoke about other things, and then we agreed we'll make time to meet.
Other things like what?
No, our things. It was a private call.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when do you envision, and what is the case are you going to make to the president?
No.
And what?
I've not made that call because the judgment is not what you guys are saying. The judgment says the Department of Correctional Service must still make a decision.
Sure.
So I can't go to president and talk about a non-existing decision.
But you would.
But if they say he must go back, I will go to him and argue my case with him that the guy is sick, the guy is old, his struggle credentials, his service to the public office, and the fact that he served time in prison, and fact that parole on its own does not mean you are free. You are still continuing to serve, even from outside. It's enough for you to give him a presidential pardon to avoid a possibility of instability which was experienced yesterday.
I just have one very quick question.
Yeah.
You faced a lot of criticism at the State of the Nation address when the EFF, pounced the stage where President Cyril Ramaphosa was addressing the nation, and there's a sense of fatigue in society about the EFF sort of taking this kind of violent positions, whether it's storming stores or that type of thing. And we saw it, you've done it many times at State of the Nation address. You are 10 years old now. Like you're saying, you can pick up the phone and speak to President Ramaphosa. So there seems to be a disconnect between the political maturity that you have when you engage with political leaders and then what the theatrics that we see on television and what South Africa sees. Can you just reflect on that a little bit? Thank you.
It's a protest, and it has got no formula. If you have not been to the picket lines, you will know that protest does not have a formula. Parliament is the highest stage of protest. When I climbed on the stage, I carried with me a placard, and I was going to silently protest on the stage. It is permissible, it is allowed, for as long as it doesn't have the party logos. But because you want to define how people should protest, you have a problem with how the EFF protest. I can talk to President Ramaphosa on the phone. I can greet him on the phone. I remain an opposition member. I've got my right to still protest. And that's maturity of politics in South Africa. There's nothing violent about that. And in most cases, once the EFF does what we did in Parliament, you are guaranteed to see another parliament doing the same thing that the EFF did. You need to ask yourself a question. Which rules did they break in Parliament? If we have not broken any rule, why do you have a problem with that? We're still members of Parliament. We are not charged because there is no rule we broke in Parliament. And then once there's no violation of the rules, you can't say no, it's a problem. I mean, the other day I said, in the EFF, we encourage people to donate 95,000 below the threshold. And then the journalists call around, why do you do what you are doing? And I said to the spokespersons, tell them you are not violating any law. You are saying to people, comply with the law. If you say on a 120 zone, Floyd, drive 119, why would a traffic cop stop me and ask me, why are you driving 119 on 120? So they just, even when you do something that is illegal, because it comes from your mouth, they want it to sound like it's illegal. If John Steenhuisen had done that thing I did, these questions were not going to be asked. So John, even after that day where we now resorted to taking up the placards, and it is because they said no one is going to speak now. It's done. You're not. Then we decided, okay, since you are refusing us to speak, we take out the placards. We are going to protest in silence. Then they pushed us out. What happened? Which media wrote about John Steenhuisen speaking after people were chased out, told not to speak, and they insisted on speaking? John spoke. You know what saved John? The color of his skin. You look at how the ANC treats the DA in Parliament and treat the EFF. John, if he does the same thing that they said we can't do, they dare not touch them. They love their whites like that.
Okay, Juanita, you're happy? All right, let's go this way. Yes. No, go on.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Malema. My name is Lukhanya Thalat, Newsroom Africa. Sir, I've heard you in the past speak about the relationship between the formation of the EFF and the relationship with the Marikana massacre, and how closely aligned those two are. Now, for the bulk of my career, I lived and worked in Cape Town. I only moved up last year, exactly a year ago. Last week, Tuesday, I had the opportunity to travel to Marikana, probably to go and do a site visit actually there. And we went and we stopped the car. And, I was surprised at we were able to literally just drive and park our car on a space that should be a sacred space because of 34 people were massacred on that space. And we parked, and I didn't know that we were actually on the space. I had to ask around as to where's the site. And then people said to me, no, this is you actually on it. And the thing that struck me while I was there is a conversation that I was part of, and you mentioned the relationship between the EFF formation and Marikana. But I looked around and there wasn't a single plaque or a cross or anything that kind of recognizes that space for what it is. And there's a bit of a disjuncture for me there, Mr. Malema, because you speak so well about speaking for the African. And yet at that, on those hallowed grounds, if I may refer to it like that, the EFF hasn't done anything to memorialize those lives that were lost there at the guns and at the hands of the state. Which makes me think, and then now again, the EFF is going to bring a rally there. Is that a wise decision to bring people to come and celebrate at a space that should be sacred, at a space that should be protected almost, and revered for the fact that those lives were lost there? I think I'm going to stop there for now. Thank you, sir.
When the EFF was formed there on the 10th of August, 13th of October 2013, just after the massacre, because we have taken a conscious decision that name must never be forgotten, and that to stay away from Marikana will be allowing those who want the name to be forgotten a space to close that chapter. So our constant revisitation of that place is to keep the name alive. and for generations to know that people were killed here. There is a call by AMCU that the government must do some development there to declare that place some sacred place and declare the 16th of August the Workers' Day, because workers were killed on that day. So we don't want to make it political by putting something EFF. We want everyone to feel free to contribute, to visit without aligning that space with political party. And we are happy that AMCU is actually taking those initiatives. It has made that call, and we are supporting them. That it must be a sacred place, it must somehow be fenced, it must be protected, so that generations to come, they can be reminded of the bad things that happened there under the current government. I don't see it happening because this government will not want to put a memorial which is going to say they are the ones who killed people. It will need a different kind of government. These things that we are talking about with JJ, about the cardinal pillars and this and that, part of the demands would be, we need that place cordoned off, and some particular memorial put with the names of those who died there, for generations to come to know that one thing terrible happened here and it's not worth forgetting. So our going back there, firstly, to just retrace our steps, because that's when we're publicly launched as the EFF, but secondly is to keep the name Marikana alive.
And then if I may, do you want? All right. If I may, Mr. Malema, and then let's then talk about the issue of justice, particularly for those minors. We have seen over the past few years almost, just the lack of justice that has, people who were intricately involved never being held accountable for the lives of those minors. And it seems to me that unless we really deal with that issue of justice, the issue of Marikana, it's always going to become this very sad moment in South African history. But yet, again, people never being held accountable. I mean, you and I have had separate discussions around, apartheid-related murders and all of those kinds of things. But this is an incident that happened under the watch of the African National Congress. And what does the EFF, what can you do, what will you do in terms of ensuring that the people that were responsible for that massacre, which is not very different when you compare it to Sharpeville, it's basically the same thing. But what do we then do in a democratic, constitutional republic to hold those people accountable for the lives that were lost on that day?
Thank you. I think one of the things people don't know, Floyd, is that when those workers were arrested, they were taken out of prison by us. We got them lawyers, took them out of prison. The first memorial service of a Marikana massacre was organized and paid by us. And all those people who spoke, they spoke on our invitation, including President Matunjo, by the way. The ministers who were there they did a stage next to the copy. We did a separate tent away from the copy. And the workers abandoned that stage of the ministers and came to us. And then the ministers abandoned their own stage and came to us. And then we told them, you're going to sit on the third row because we don't want people to see your faces. You are responsible for what happened here. From there, we got the lawyers to go and take the names of all those who were in hospital because they wanted them to be compensated. So, Dalimpofu, Andries, there used to be a lady as well and we put those lawyers together. And then I opened the case at the Marikana police station against Cyril, against Susan, against Natim Tetwa, and Pierre. So I've got a case number. And so they may try tricks now because it's them who are in power. But the fact that we opened a case and we've got a case number, when the changes happen, we'll always go back there and say we need accountability of who killed these people and for what, because no one has, not a single person has been arrested since the killing of those Marikana workers. So we also even donated money, not less than 1 million, to the widows to try and build them houses, to make them comfortable as we're still busy fighting this battle. Some portions of money have been released. Not all monies have been released. I think Dali had an explanation to give about the monies and all of that. But I think there was some process that was already unfolding to try and compensate the workers. If it's the case that the state must pay the lawyers of the workers, was funded by us. Raulinga was an acting judge in that matter where we are saying there's no money. You kill these people and you know they don't have money. You're going to pay their lawyers so that they can continue to fight you. And that's how they were managed to get representation in the commission. What was that guy's commission? And Falam Commission and all of that. So we've been there, and we are going to make sure that we are not just celebrating there.
Okay.
We keep the flag flying until someone is held accountable.
All right, I want to take some more. Okay, let's go there and I'll come back to you.
Good afternoon. My name is Kofi Kwaku. I'm with the Center for Africa-China Studies at UJ. I have 3 quick points. The first 2 are questions. The last one is a request. Now, it's less. The request is going to be less political. The first one is I would like to piggyback on what Ms. Mokoena of SABC talked about. Next month, there's probably on the geopolitical calendar one of the most important events in the world, which will be shaping the rest of the world. I know she's already asked you a question. I want to know what are the concrete plans for the EFF to conscientize people about this coming change in the world and the role of Africa and South Africa for that matter. The other one is there seems to be a brutal U.S. war on South Africa. This is something that's not quite clear. People are not connecting the dots. And there are many events that are telling us this. The first one, of course, is the U.S. ambassador's arms sales allegation and pressure on South Africa. The second one is the AGOA, they're trying to get South Africa out of this AGOA deal and force South Africa to lose preferential trade treatment with South Africa. And the other one is, many others, but let me probably stop there. But maybe I should. On a South African passport, there are 2 languages. If many of you remember, there's English and French. My question is, what is French still doing on that passport? Can the EFF take this as a serious matter and find an African language on that? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I have not been paying attention on the French part. Yeah. But it's a very interesting point that we will take up with the authorities. I fully agree that there is a war by the US to undermine the sovereignty of South Africa, because by threatening us to take a position or else we're losing the benefits of AGOA, is to try and dictate a foreign policy. And the current government has got a duty on its own to defend its sovereignty by standing firm and say we are non-aligned and we are not going to be bullied by the USA to take side on its war with Russia, because we know for a fact that it's not Ukraine. It has got no capacity, none whatsoever. It's a war that is being fought by the US against Russia through Ukraine and NATO. So far, under very difficult circumstances, because we are not led by decisive leadership, so far we are trying to do best with the current minister, who from time to time try to push and defend the sovereignty of South Africa, because that is very fundamental. If we let go with these benefits that we seek to achieve from AGOA, then we should know that our foreign policy positions are decided somewhere else, and therefore there is nothing sovereign about South Africa. We can just close shop and allow America to send the notes for us on what to say and not what to say. So our existence is to guard against that and put pressure and ensure that the sovereignty of South Africa, it is protected. The summit indeed is present different dynamics in the world, and we are happy and we're educating our people about these issues that are taking place. Especially one of the issues that we are interested in is doing away with the dollar as a middleman, and that discussion is very, very important, that we follow it up and support those initiatives, because why should we trade with someone else's currency when we have our own currencies? So the world will be sitting, trying to come up with alternatives in terms of the geopolitics, and South Africa is ready to receive the world and contribute positively towards changing the dynamics in the geopolitics.
Good. Let's come back here.
Thank you, JJ. Mr. Malema, my name is Zain Samad. I'm from New Zealand, Africa. Just a quick question, one question from me. You often speak very informedly and very emphatically about the ANC leadership, the lack of qualities of leadership, the factionalism within that party, etc. Obviously, given your own intimate and extensive relationship and participation in that party, I wanted to ask, and also given your intention to, when and should it happen, with regards to the former president, that you will petition Cyril Ramaphosa for a potential pardon. All of this in an attempt to create stability. What I wanted to ask you, Mr. Malema, is given 2024 and the fact that this is the first time that there's a real possibility, if one believes all the analysts and everybody else, that the ANC will be pushed under 40%, which would obviously necessitate a different kind of government. Are you, given your intimate knowledge of the ANC, are you concerned that at any point the current crop of leadership is prepared to hand over that kind of power? Are you prepared? Are you concerned that, given your intimate knowledge of what happens in Zimbabwe and how ZANU-PF has, in your words, rigged elections, are there concerns on your part that these might be dynamics that we're going to have to contend with come 2024, given the kind of national dynamic, given the kind of political situation as it is unfolding in the country today?
Well, we in the EFF are investing a lot of resources in the party agents. We need to train party agents, and that's why it's important for opposition parties to work together, so that we look after the votes of every opposition because others may not have the capacity to be in all the voting stations. So instead of coming together now and work together towards defeating the ANC, you will find a situation where people are fragmenting the opposition. So we should consolidate every little resource we have and then go and look after our votes and make sure that every vote that belongs to the opposition, it is protected. And EFF party agents must look after the DA votes if the DA does not have the party agents, so that we avoid a situation where the votes are stolen. Because I'm convinced in the previous elections, 2019, votes were stolen here in Gauteng. How do you win the elections with 50.1? What do you call that? And by the time they said the ANC won the elections, Paul Mashatile had called us to Saxon Hotel, coming to negotiate a coalition, and said, guys, the results are in, we've lost. Are you prepared to come to party with us? And then we said, no, but what do you mean you have lost? The results are not out. He said, we've got party agents everywhere. We collect before even the IEC announces the official results. The ANC results are saying we've lost. As we're talking, he takes the phone call. They call him. He goes outside. And then he comes back. He says, no, we made it. Yeah, but yet he had conceded and he had called us to a meeting in Saxon Hotel. So they didn't win Gauteng. But, and you know what they did? If you remember, they sent soldiers into Alexander. And I said, we accept this result because I'm not going to put the lives of our people in danger for the sake of the votes. But equally, the EFF did not have a properly oiled machine. When you say these people have taken the votes, you ought to produce every receipt of every voting station. So now we're going to employ this guy who was in the IEC, Terry Zelane, to go and appoint EFF party agents and train them. And he must have the means with them in all the voting stations. And if it means we must pay money, we'll pay money for voting, for party agents. Because they don't play. So the only way to succeed is to defend the votes. And is defend them with evidence. Because you are not going to just start a war here and say people have stolen votes, and then when they say produce, you have nothing to do.
Do you have confidence in the IEC, in simple terms?
We have no option, Chef.
Okay, so you're happy? All right, let's see who's next. Okay, let's go over there. Go ahead. Just I can't see anything. Just introduce yourself.
Thank you.
I'll come to that.
Thank you, JJ.
Oh, I'll give you. Don't worry, you all talk. We still have an hour. Yes, go ahead.
My name is Madume Jatobachale, CEO of Kasi Broadcasting. Ke kulo bulela mo ka dilo tse pedi tse tharo. Mare go le tantshedi molaodi wa o moholo wa banola ditokelo tsa morero wa naga. Ke ya gore maabane ke kulo bulela ka gore EFF e na le naga, na le famo, ebile la bana slothara gona. Ebile la mathomo ke kwa tabeng. Ba le putšhaka ko gore na ka ntle le famo eo le Winnie Mandela House, what other strategic assets does the EFF have? That's number one. Number two, o gola ka fase ga tlhokomelo ya koko Sara wa re tloetse gone bjale. Ebile ra ba le Winnie Mandela le ra re tloetse. At that particular time, you were busy, even though Sally busy with the EFF along with the other leaders of the EFF. Now, put your go now, situation e ka moka ya go tlogela ke batho ba bagolo ba o thusa mo go bona e go tshwere bang le gore o be motho o leng moetapele go leng yena gone bjale and as you continue ya mafelelo ke mabapi le BRICS invitation. The question is, are you invited to the BRICS? That's number one. Number two, if you are invited, what role are you expected to be participating on? And then what is that the EFF, if they're invited and the role is going to be there, what is that the EFF is going to be contributing? And lastly on that one is, what will be the benefit of us as South Africa? Thank you.
No, really, I'm shabby. Monola again, not to a halig mushabi. So then nag mushabi. So we don't have a BRICS invite because BRICS is government to government relations, so we're not there. And then the BRICS political summit is an ANC meeting, it's not our meeting. So the ANC decide who they invite and who they don't invite. So you can't be complaining that the ANC doesn't invite you to their own meeting. I mean, we have our own anniversary, we're not inviting them. So it's the same. So it's their own, so what they do, they call parties that are aligned to them from BRICS countries and then have their own summit, political party summit, but it's not an official thing of the state. Only the August one is state to state, and we are in opposition and members of parliament were not invited. Only the executive get invited. There was an attempt to take an initiative in parliament where we said to Speaker Nosiviwe, please do the BRICS parliamentary summit, where parliaments of BRICS come together and all of that, but because they are lazy, she didn't do it. But we thought it was going to be an opportune moment for BRICS parliaments to exchange notes and ideas and experiences and share views on this or that issue. We own the farm. That farm that you saw, that's where we're going to build Winnie Mandela Combined School. The primary and the high school, and the boarding. They will also have a boarding, and that school will take orphans from HIV and AIDS and COVID, because COVID has killed a lot of parents. So they will stay there. In the conceptualization, we also have a clinic, professional nurses and doctors and all of that, because I believe very strongly, and I tell Robert Gumede this, that there are black people with a lot of money, but they don't build schools. With lots and lots of money. And schools, that's where our problem comes from. Whatever we learn at school, we go with it to the grave. And that's where the desire to own school comes from. The problem that occurred, the reason why building is not up, we had 2 years of not doing anything. Remember that COVID took us out. But as we speak now, the plans have been approved. The contractor should be moving to site anytime from now onwards. We are committed to building that school, and we want to be the first black party that owns a school and put money into the school. Because look at these African right-wingers. They build universities, they build schools. We don't do anything school. And then you look at the types of cars we drive. We look at the types of houses we stay in. If we cut anything we have by half, not all of it, and put together, we can build the most beautiful school. So, and in the same farm, we're going to build teleconference facility where all national meetings of the EFF are going to be held. So they are not held at Winnie Mandela House. They are held at the farm. Why? So that the EFF can have a permanent relationship with that school. Because if they don't have anything that takes them there, even when the school dilapidate, they may not see. So you do something that will force them to go there. And because they go there more often, then they will be able to look after that particular school, even beyond Julius Malema. Because you don't plan it now, that because I'm here, I'll look after it. The other people may not share the same vision. You lock them into that vision to make sure that there is a permanent link. Later on, we can even sell the school back to the state and say to the state, buy the school, put it under yourself, but you must know we have this relationship with this particular school. And we've got the approvals from the family, is very happy. And that's what we want, a legacy of school. Many people don't have that. They've got legacies of cars and beautiful clothes and houses. Let us be the first generation of politicians who say we are going to use our own resources to build a school and even go beyond to ask others to come and help us to build this school.
All right. Follow up?
Yeah. Oh, well, you know, I always have tell Vianney that we are the elders now. Those who were older are no longer there. I just lost yesterday, was the day before, my grandfather, who was the last born of my grandfather, so a sibling. He was the only remaining link with the Malemas. So Vianney says to me, no condolences, there's nothing we can do because now as they pass on, they leave that responsibility with us now. So before the Taba, Gernar Sanjir di Subisheli to go.
All right. Hello. Yeah, I'll come to you now. Raidu? How? Please pass the mic to him. Yeah, okay.
Hi, my name is Aido. From leadership. Yeah, okay. Just one question. It's actually not only directed to you, the EFF party as a party, but political parties, right? Because if you look at the history of our struggle and whatever and all these things, right? Especially in the 80s and whatever, it was a people's revolution because there were people's structures on the ground, you know, that actually drove the revolution. Street committees, consumer boycott committees and whatever. And what the ANC did, unfortunately, after when they came into power, they demobilized those people's structures. And then now we're focusing on parliamentary politics. And that's what all the parties are doing now. I mean, all the things that we are doing now is, you know, to win support so that you get elections. Now, the criticism, especially, I would say, for leftist parties like yourself, which you would believe that you believe you are revolutionary in outlook. There's a question that there's a gap between political parties and people's structures. And you are focusing too much on parliamentary politics, you know, get elected and whatever. And that revolution will always create a gap. That approach will always create a gap between people, you know, and those political parties. And you can see practically sometimes how it happens. Is, of course, I mean, if there's a problem in Deep Sleuth, you know, as EFF, other political, you'll go there, pay bail for the people who are arrested. But what you need is organic structures, you know, Because, for example, I mean, what is the relationship between most of the political parties and grassroots organizations like Abahlali baseMjondolo, the Amadiba community, you know, those kind of things that are dealing with critical issues. What's your comment?
Well, we in the EFF have recognized the need to participate in the organs of people's power. So, of late, you've got hospital boards, you've got SGBs, you've got community forums, you've got ward committees, and so those are organs of people's power, because those are the structures that govern day-to-day lives of our people apart from parliamentary politics. And it is important that we participate actively, and I agree with that narrative that if we don't participate at that level, we run a risk of creating a gap between people structures and parliamentarians or political parties. So we have noted that, and they know part of the report is to report how many members do we have in the community forum, how many members do we have in the street committee, how many members do we have in the hospital boards, how many, because we must not create that distance between ourselves and other formations.
All right, follow up, or you are happy?
Yeah, sorry. You see, those are formal structures because SGBs are, you know, for schools and whatever, but they are grassroots organizations that are out of the formal, but which are part of the people's revolution. What is your relationship with those? I mean, for example, even the labor movement or those organizations that I talk about now, those are which are, you know, organic organizations that are dealing with their issues on the ground. In fact, in these cases, like Bombo, some John and those people are actually fighting against government. And I just want to know what, you know, what is the link between you and those, you know, isn't that, don't you feel that is and it's because of we are operating within parliamentary politics, and don't you think that's the weakness in terms of the approach of most political parties?
Yeah, but I do, those structures, formal as they are, we always said in the 80s, we need organs of people's power. So Bahlali baseMjondolo is an organization on its own. And it cannot take a decision to relate with the EFF. I mean, Bahlali baseMjondolo, for instance, the other time they said people must vote for DA. It's an organization, independent organization. But structures where we can all participate without anyone saying, we don't relate with this one, we relate with that one, is those organs of people's power that somehow are viewed as formal structures, but they are running day-to-day lives of our people on the ground, and they are the ones that give you direct contact with what is happening on the ground. But any organization that is progressive in nature, that deals with community-based issues, if EFF see it as a force to work with, will never avoid working with them. Those are the kind of structures we want.
Okay. Let me just see how many people still want to talk so I can budget the time. There's one, there's 2, 3, 4. Okay.
5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right. Fine. Let's start there.
Thanks, JJ. It's Maria Sanyani from Power FM. Mr. CIC, the EFF has pronounced that it is a government in waiting. And as a government in waiting, we observe the EFF behavior and attitude in parliament and whatever. And through the Deputy President, Fred Shivambu, when you tabled the motion for debate around the illicit financial flows, it was debated, but it is common cause now that South Africa is grey listed. and we are battling to control transnational crimes that are happening in the country. And it is a major cause for concern. So, beyond just raising or tabling such important motions in Parliament, do you think you've done enough from your parliamentary mandate of playing the oversight and holding the executive accountable? Whether you've done that effectively and sufficiently? And should you ascend to power after next year's elections, how will you approach this issue differently? And linked to that, your member in the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence, Dr. Ndlozi, has expressed disquiet about the workings of the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence. And the EFF, on several occasions, have not supported the budget vote on intelligence, because they say